Good. Okay, good morning, dear students. Welcome to the class on cash flow statements. This topic, cash flow statements, has got multiple dimensions. In fact, this topic is actually the basic thing we are going to discuss today is AS3, accounting standard number 3, which provides various aspects regarding preparation of cash flow statements. Now, when you look at cash flow statements, let us look at the importance of it and various aspects relating to cash flow statements in general. Then we'll go to AS3. Now, if you look at the financial statements of, let us focus on a company for that matter. Under the Companies Act, what are the financial statements to be prepared by a company? Would you be able to tell me? Compulsory requirement under Companies Act. What are the financial statements a company should prepare? Would you be able to tell me that?
So, statement of profit and loss,
Mm.
balance sheet, cash flow
Mm.
statement, statement of changes in equity, notes to
Excellent.
accounts.
Excellent. Okay. Very good answer. I'm really happy. This is exactly the answer. So, a company should prepare various financial statements in the form of a statement of profit and loss, balance sheet, cash flow statements, and statement of changes in equity. So, one of the important statement a company should prepare is cash flow statement. Now, this cash flow statement, why did it start at all? All about that, we need to understand that also. The genesis of cash flow statement. In fact, interestingly, earlier days we used to only prepare P&L balance sheet, and that's all. It was only two major statements we used to prepare, as far as even for a company for that matter. Earlier, we had something called Schedule 6 to the Companies Act, which prescribed the format of preparation of P&L and balance sheet and all that. Now, that has undergone a change, wherein the formats have also undergone a change. Now, we have to prepare it under Schedule 3 to the Companies Act. We have to prepare statement of P&L and balance sheet. And cash flow statement, the format of it, the content of it is all something we have to understand by going through AS3. Cash flow statement, why it started. Now, interestingly, for example, you may find from the P&L of a company, statement of P&L, the company has made profit, let us say 100 crores profit. But you would not probably know from the P&L statement what they have done with the profit. Now, there are two things when you talk of a profit. A profit is something which is, we have an accrual basis of accounting. So a net profit as per your P&L, every company has to follow the accrual basis of accounting only. So the net profit arrived at under accrual basis of accounting is something which gives you the net profit at 100 crores or 200 crores or whatever it is. But interestingly, you would find in the balance sheet a bank balance of only 1 crore. Oh, this was a major issue. Now, this happened actually in many cases earlier. Balance sheet will show bank balance and cash balance of 1 crore, whereas your P&L account will show a profit of 100 crores, net profit of 100 crores. So you may wonder as a user of a financial statement, what is this? There is a huge mismatch between the net profit and your bank balance. Naturally, they are going to be different only. They are not going to be the same. But at least you need to know how this difference, why this 100 crores as per P&L, whereas it's only 1 crore as per balance sheet or vice versa. Then the issue came up to understand that part. And therefore, this requirement of preparation of a cash flow statement came up. This cash flow statement is a statement which is basically going to tell us what is your cash and bank balance and how this is moved over a period. Now, normally, let us say for a quarter or a year. What was your opening cash and bank balance? What was your closing cash and bank balance? How this movement has happened during this period, monthly basis or quarterly basis or annual basis. Now, for users of financial statement, understanding this movement in cash and cash equivalents, what we call cash and cash equivalents is nothing but cash balance and bank balance and equivalents of that. So, what is the movement and how it has moved? And we have to understand something called a concept called a cash profit. Now, cash profit is something you're very much familiar with, which we also did it in our cash flow statements, where we discussed that net profit plus depreciation for simple calculation of cash flow. Net profit after tax plus depreciation will give you what? Cash flow. Similar thing we are going to do here. We are going to arrive at something called cash operating profits. What is your cash operating profits? That is your profit out of your operations, your sales, your purchases. After all that, you're going to get something called cash profits. Now, when you talk of finding out cash profits, you need to adjust your non-cash items like depreciation or amortization of expenses or writing off of expenses, etc. Everything should be adjusted to your net profits. Yeah, okay. See, now we have to arrive at net profit before tax first. Then adjustments for various, as I said, the non-cash items you have to make. Then you have to also adjust for the tax paid. Then you get operating profits after tax or operating cash flows after tax. So that's your cash profit. So when we are preparing cash flow statements, we are going to basically categorize our activities of our business into three. Any idea what are the three activities in which you actually categorize your business activities for the purpose of preparation of cash flow statements?
Operating, investing and financing.
Very good, excellent. Operating activities, financing activities, and investing activities. These are the three activities which you actually bifurcate your cash flow statement into, and this is going to give you separately what is your cash flow from operating activities, what is your cash flow from investing activities, what is your cash flow from financing activities. Now, once you prepare this cash flow statement, the user of the financial statement would know, Acha, there is a very good operating profit. Now, the net profit as per your P&L is 100 crores, but your operating cash flows or operating profits, what you call cash profits, what we call, that is what is referred to as operating cash flows. It's, let us say, 150 crores or 200 crores or 80 crores or whatever it might be, because that depends on the adjustment items. We have to adjust for a few things out of your profit. So you get your operating cash flows, let us say 150 crores. But out of 150 crores of operating cash flows, you have invested heavily in new business venture or expansion or purchase of machinery or a lot of things you have done. You have invested. Investment in land and building, investment in acquisition of a business, investment in whatever, ABC. You have invested heavily on that, some 100 crores or so. So you had operating cash profits of 150 crores during the year, and out of which 100 crores you have invested. And 50 crores is your net finance movement, for example. Net finance means issue of share capital, redemption of debentures, redemption of preference shares, and you are sourcing your finance from various options. Like, so you get some finance, you repay something, you pay interest on loan, you borrow loan. All that comes under financing activities. So net financing activities, some X amount. So you had 150 crores of operating cash flows, some 100 crores of invested, negative, bracket means outflow, and some 50 crores of funding, financing, inflow or outflow, whatever. Then finally, we'll give the, for the year, what is your net cash flow? For the year, net cash flow is something from operating activities, 150 crores, investing activities, negative 100 crores, financing activity, negative 60 crores or negative 40 crores, you will get a closing cash and cash equivalent. So that closing cash and cash equivalent, what appears in your balance sheet. So now you're able to understand, oh, Acha, this company has made a very good operating profit, cash profits, but they have invested heavily. If you take, for example, companies like Airtel. Airtel is a company which makes very good operating profits, but they invest a lot of money on expansion. Every time they expand, even now yesterday the news is about they're going to go for some funding proposal. So they need money. Every business is requiring money for expansion, growth, acquisition, and all that. So now they are going to go for some funding also. So now on looking at the cash flow statement, you will be able to determine, actually, this is my operating cash profits, this is my total inflow or outflow from investing activities, and from financing activities, this is my inflow or outflow. That will give you the final, whatever is the closing cash equivalents, cash and cash equivalents, and that is what should tie up with your balance sheet figure. Now, this is a beautiful and very important statement which offers the users of financial statement a complete insight into what is happening in the business. There is very, very nut and bolt of it is well understood through this cash flow statement. Your P&L has got accrual concept, so non-cash items are sitting in it. So anybody who is a user of a financial statement would not be able to understand what is happening to the cash. Because the basic question is, let us say investor, as an investor, you are interested in dividend. Now, recently a company had made good profits, but they are not declaring dividend properly. Now, this is something you can check in Google. There are many companies, they have very good profits, but they don't give dividends. Why? Then you like to know, as an investor, I am a shareholder. You are not giving me any dividend at all. What is the point? My value of my share is increasing. That is one aspect of it. But what happened to my income? I am depending. In fact, once Tata Motors, few years before, I think I've discussed this earlier also in one of the sessions, they could not pay dividend. The chairman of the company said in the meeting, AGM, sorry, this year we are not in a position to declare dividend. Then there are a lot of senior shareholders who stood up and said, what is this? We have been shareholders for the last 30, 40 years and we have been living on this dividend. For us, dividend is a substantial income. I have got some 10,000 shares in your company. Each year I used to get some 50 rupees or whatever. And now this year you're saying there's no dividend. Then what happened to my that 1 lakh or 2 lakhs or 3 lakhs I used to get as a dividend, which was one of my source of income for me. So let us not forget the fact there are a lot of investors who are looking at dividend as an income source. But you don't pay dividend. You invest all your money in expansion, growth, putting towers and do all that. Then what happened to shareholder? This is the basic issue. So a shareholder or an investor can understand from the financial statements like cash flow statement, oh, achha, this company is doing this company is doing this. So you can question them if they are doing it incorrectly. Recently, 2 days before, there was an issue about appointment of a managing director. This is all public domain only, of Eicher Motors. MD of that company, Mr. I forgot his name, the shareholders rejected his appointment because he was seeking the company was seeking a 10% increase in his salary. Because there's a huge outflow on that, and considering the pandemic situation and profitability situation, the shareholders did not accept the salary increase. So they rejected the proposal for salary increase for managing director. So shareholders are so powerful. As an investor, as a shareholder, I would like to know what the company is doing. Are you able to understand? So this is exactly the purpose for which every company prepares a cash flow statement to tell the investor and shareholder through a statement, okay, this is what we have done in this year. So anybody can be happy with it or anybody can have issues with that. They can raise it up as an investor, as a shareholder or whoever it might be. And not only that, for proper financial management, it is imperative for every financial professional like us to prepare this on a periodic basis and to understand where are we going. So you can give suggestions like, no, we don't have operating cash flows. We have very little operating cash flows. So how are you going to invest? Don't do that, or don't go in for major expansion this year. Let us look at next year. So these sort of decisions can be enabled through a proper preparation of a cash flow statement. Are you able to follow what I'm saying? Clear? This is the purpose of preparation of a financial statement in the form of a cash flow statement to enable the users to understand how the movement of cash and cash equivalent has taken place between two periods. It could be a month or a quarter or a year or whatever, depending on the requirement of the company. Anyway, annually, a company has to necessarily prepare a cash flow statement. But there are a few exceptions and exemptions. You know that small company and all need not prepare this, etc. So we are not getting into that. So 90% of the companies have to necessarily prepare this cash flow statement. So are you able to understand? And is there any doubt at this stage?
Clear, sir.
Okay, good. Now,
Clear, sir.
okay. Now, for us, a proper understanding of this is very much important. So we're going to spend quality time in proper understanding of how to prepare cash flow statement. So AS3, coming to AS3. AS3 is giving us a clear direction as to how to prepare guidelines as to how to prepare a cash flow statement. We are going to go through that in little detail. And let us start off with definitions given under the AS3. Now, when we talk of a cash flow statement, we keep on discussing about the term called cash and cash equivalents. Cash and cash equivalents. So the general tendency is for us to understand cash means cash in hand. No, it is cash means cash in hand, cash at bank, and cash equivalent. Cash equivalent means something that can be quickly converted into cash without erosion of value or without a fall in value. That is very interesting example. I can use gold. Gold is like cash equivalent. Gold is like cash equivalent. That is got a high liquidity. You can quickly convert the gold into the realizable value, what it is actually reflecting. If I have a gold invested in gold, let us say, for example, 5 lakh rupees, I can sell the gold for 5 lakh rupees. At least I know for 4 lakh 90 or 5 lakh 10 I can sell, but it is convertible into cash. So anything that can be quickly converted into cash at a value which is something which you can determine correctly. Not something unknown. Like, for example, you invested in shares of some company, you don't even know what the movement in price will be higher or lower, it can vary between days and all that. So that is not a cash equivalent. A cash equivalent is typically a short-term investment or something which can be quickly converted into cash. And that is something which is going to offer you a money worth immediately on disposal of it, etc. So let us first understand what is the definition of cash given under AS3. Cash comprises of cash on hand and demand deposits. Now, demand deposits are those deposits in the form of savings deposit and current account deposits. Now, as a person carrying on a business, I have a current account with the bank, I have a savings account with the bank, whatever balances are available, positive balances are available. I may even have an overdraft for that matter. So overdraft means a negative balance. So my cash in hand and cash equivalent in the form of demand deposits. Demand deposits, I have my current account deposit at 2 lakhs. I can actually take the 2 lakhs. So that is quickly convertible into cash. Then cash equivalents. In fact, cash is comprising of cash on hand and demand deposit. Remember this. Both cash on hand and demand deposits are coming under the definition of cash itself, not cash equivalent, cash itself. Now there is a separate definition of cash equivalent. Cash equivalents are short-term, highly liquid investments that are readily convertible into known amounts of cash. Very, very important. Known amounts of cash. You know what cash you can generate out of selling that. If you don't know that, that's not a cash equivalent. So into known amounts of cash and which are subject to an insignificant risk of change in value. Insignificant. There is a risk of change in value, but it's not so significant. In gold, every day the price varies. Today gold price per gram is, let us say, 3,500 or 4,000 rupees. Tomorrow it could be 4,100 or 3,900. It's insignificant value change, but quickly convertible into cash. So there are 2-3 important terms used in cash equivalents. Short term, 1, highly liquid, 2, investments, short term investments, readily convertible into equivalent amount, known amount of cash, and subject to insignificant risk of change in value. 4 important points are coming in the term called cash equivalent. All of you are clear? Coming to cash flows, there are 2 flows. One is inflow, another is outflow of cash and cash equivalents. So when you talk of cash flow statement, it is going to tell us a statement which is giving you breakup of inflows of cash and outflows of cash. Then we have operating activities. 3 major activities what we discussed. Broadly, the cash flow statements are prepared, classifying the activities into 3. One is called operating activities. So what are the typical operating activities of a business that can bring you cash? That is the net, it can be either a net inflow or net outflow. What are the various activities you do? Now, while preparing a cash flow statement, let me put it straight away. There are 2 approaches while we prepare cash flow statement with respect to operating cash flows. 2 methods rather. Would you be able to tell me what are the 2 methods for preparation of cash flows for operating activities? Now we have 3 activities: operating activities, investing activities, financing activities. When we talk of operating activities, there are 2 broad methods in which you can prepare cash flows from operating activities. What are those 2 methods? Would you be able to tell me?
Sir, direct and indirect method.
Very good. So you have got right answer. It's direct method and indirect method. When we talk of operating cash flows, we have 2 methods called direct method and indirect method. Investing and financing activities, there is only 1 method. There is no 2 methods. Now, interestingly, when we talk of operating cash flows, operating activities, we need to understand what it is first. So let me come to that first, then I'll come to direct and indirect, how different it is. Okay. Operating activities are the principal revenue producing activities for a business. And it also includes activities that are not investing or financing activities. Very interesting actually. While you prepare a cash flow statement, operating activities are those activities which are not investing, which are not financing. Now, why this becomes an important way of understanding operating activities is that when you look at the activity of a company, you classify them into ABC: operating, investing, financing. So if you know if it is not investing and financing, then automatically it is what? Operating by default. So that's one of the important ways in which you can understand whether it is investing or financing or operating. So operating activities are those activities which are not investing and financing. Very simple. Now, what are the revenue earning activities of a company? We have revenue earning activities of a company like sale. When you make sales, sale of goods or services, anything you receive as a cash inflow into your business by selling goods or by selling your services or offering services, etc., revenue earning. And towards earning that revenue, you would have spent some money on purchases of goods, payment to creditors, all that. So these are all outflows. So inflows and outflows. One is sales, which includes cash sales, credit sales. Credit sales were realization from customers, etc. Then payment to Puerto Rico, purchases and payment to creditors, etc. This is just to make you briefly understand, because I'll come to this two methods, direct method and indirect method, how it is different. And very interestingly, the accounting aspects of the way we prepare accounting, we will get the cash flow from operating activities as the same amount, whether we prepare under direct method or indirect method. That's the interesting part you need to understand. So coming to investing activities. So let me repeat, operating activities are the principal. Principal means important or key, main revenue producing activities of an entity and other activities that are not investing and financing activities. Secondly, what is an investing activity? Or investing activities are activities relating to acquisition and disposal of long-term assets and other investments not included in cash equivalents. If you look at the balance sheet of a company, particularly balance sheet. Now, interestingly, I can also make you understand this better by telling you this: operating activities are more related to items of P&L. Operating activities are primarily relating to activities that are reflected in profit and loss account, whereas investing activities are those which are relating to balance sheet items. In balance sheet items, particularly the asset side, other than cash and cash equivalents, which is just for easy understanding, current assets and short-term investments. That is broadly your cash and cash equivalent, because that can be quickly converted into cash, into known amount of cash, etc. But other than that, anything else, you have fixed assets, you have long-term investments, everything comes under investing activities. So investing activities பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் எல்லா காம்போனன்ட்ஸுமே எங்க ரிஃப்ளெக்ட் ஆகும் பேலன்ஸ் ஷீட்னு பாத்தீங்கன்னா, எங்க இருக்கும்னா பேலன்ஸ் ஷீட் அசெட் சைட் primarily. Then coming to financing activities are those activities that result in changes in size and composition of contribution or contributed equity and borrowings of the entity, debt and equity. If you look at the balance sheet side, the liability part, where you have your debt and equity, issue of equity, borrowing of debt, repayment of debt, issue of preference shares, redemption of preference shares, issue of debentures, redemption of debentures, all that comes under funding, financing, payment of interest on loan, receipt of dividend on your investments, everything comes under financing. Investing means investing lower, financing lower. Financing. So in the investing and financing of Puerto Rico, you have to understand investing activities primarily come under the balance sheet asset side, and financing activities primarily comes under the liability side, broadly categorized into debt and equity, where you may have to pay dividend for your shareholders. Preference shareholders, you have to pay dividend. Equity shareholders, you have to pay dividend. Debenture means you have to pay interest on debentures. So there are a lot of bonds, etc., which you have to pay regular interest. So these are all investing activities and financing activities. So broadly classified into investing. Investing means you will receive, financing means you will pay. That's a broad difference. You invested in shares of a company, you will receive dividend. If you invested in debentures of a company, you would receive interest. All that can happen. Are you able to understand this? All of you are clear? Any doubts?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So now coming to cash and cash equivalents, as I said, these are short-term items which are quickly convertible into cash, known amounts of cash without much value erosion. That is what is your cash and cash equivalent. Now coming to operating activities, I said there are two methods. One is direct method, another is indirect method. In direct method, you're going to have a record of whatever receipts from sale of goods, services, from royalties, fees, commission, all operation related. Then payments to suppliers, payment to creditors, payment of salaries to employees, all that admin expenses, HR expenses, all that comes under operating activities. So this is what we call it as a direct method. Now carefully understand, dear students, the direct method of determination of cash flow from operating activities is after duly considering various activities under the operating head, which includes sales, and sales means receipts, purchases, payments, and expenses, operating expenses, your HR expenses, your salary, wages paid, all that. That is something, to put it in a very easy way to understand, something you get before you go to your net profit at operating level. Operating profits, what we call. After that, when you got, you have non-operating items like interest, dividend, other. So in the, to put it in a simple term, EBITDA earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, amortization, for example. So on the stage, our operating profit, other than cash flow from operating activities and a direct method. So it includes all items of sales, purchases, everything. Net of it is what you get, operating cash flows. Then there is called an indirect method. In the indirect method, the operating cash flows will be the same as per direct method. In indirect method, the approach is slightly different. You're going to start with net profit before tax and extraordinary items, add items of adjustments in the form of non-cash items. In your typical trading P&L account, for easy understanding purposes, you will have non-cash items like depreciation, amortization, loss on sale of asset, etc., which are all non-cash items. What is a non-cash item? Simple. Anything which doesn't involve a cash inflow or outflow is a non-cash. Depreciation, எப்படி அண்டர்ஸ்டாண்ட் பண்ணிக்கலாம்னா ஒரு அக்கவுண்டிங் என்ட்ரி நீங்க திங்க் பண்ணி பார்க்கலாம். டெப்ரிசியேஷன் அக்கவுண்டிங் என்ட்ரி போடும்போது உங்களுக்கே தெரியும் there is no cash involved. Amortization entry think பண்ணும்போது there is no cash involved. Loss on sale of asset, there is no cash involved. Okay, all these items which doesn't involve a cash, these are all referred to as non-cash items. So net profit before tax and extraordinary items have to be computed based on the available information. To that you are going to add or less non-cash items. The trading P&L items debit, depreciation, amortization will be added, and credit, if any, profit on sale of asset, if any, will be reduced. It's a non-cash item. And you will then get net profit before taxes, and to that you have to, after all these adjustments, less income tax paid. You have to determine the income tax paid during the year, because you have provision for income tax, you have payment of income tax. Provision is a liability. So provision for income tax account you can open, determine the amount paid during the year, and that is what is to be reduced. So net profit before tax, you arrive at after all adjustments, less income tax paid, you get net profit after tax. And to that finally you can add extraordinary items if any, and you'll get net profit after tax, and after extraordinary items you get net finally operating cash flows. And in fact here there's one more point which I have to add here. Generally speaking, you also have working capital changes. Whenever there are changes in working capital items like current assets and current liabilities, I'm talking about indirect method. So in indirect method you have two components or parts. One is adjustment for non-cash items. Carefully observe. Net profit before tax and extraordinary items. Adjustment for non-cash items. Correct? Add or less non-cash items. Then you have to adjust for working capital changes. Changes in working capital components, current assets and current liability. Let us say, for example, debtors. Debtors originally was 1 lakh opening. Closing is 2 lakhs. Increase in debtors is what? Is it an increase in cash flow or decrease in cash flow? Increase in debtors, is it an increase in cash flow or decrease in cash flow?
Decrease,
it's a component of current assets.
Decrease in cash
A decrease in cash flow, sir. Decrease.
Exactly. Good. It is a decrease in cash flow. So you should less. So we are talking about operating cash flows. After adjustment for non-cash items, you'll get something. Then before working capital changes, because working capital changes is also reflecting on operating cash flows only, because they're all relating to operating activities. Your debtors, creditors, everything relates to your operating activities. So to put it in a simple way, any increase in current asset is a negative cash flow or cash outflow. Any increase in current assets. So debtors is an example I gave you. From 1 lakh it goes to 2 lakhs. Any increase in current asset component is a decrease in cash flow, and vice versa. Similarly, creditors was 1 lakh originally, now it has become 2 lakhs. Is it a positive cash flow or negative cash flow? Creditors from 1 lakh it has become 2 lakhs. Positive. Exactly. It's an inflow. Good. So creditors as increase means you are not paid them. So it is indirectly an inflow or positive cash flow for you. So increase in creditors is a positive cash flow, and decrease in creditors is a negative cash flow. Now, if I tell you what is east direction, you can very well tell me what is west and what is south and what is north. Very simple. Same thing applies here. You do not try to memorize or remember. I don't know in your school days how you did or how your teacher taught it. I don't know, or how you understood it, or today what is your position. But I can tell you my own way of understanding it is that, particularly when you talk of the changes in working capital items, you need to be very easily understanding this. Taking one example, debtors எடுத்துக்கோங்க, current asset component. Any increase in debtors is a decrease in cash flow, or so that eventually tells you that any increase in a current asset component is a decrease in cash flow, and vice versa. Same thing applies in case of a current liability like creditors. Any increase in current liability component like creditors is a positive cash flow, and vice versa. That's all. So you make your working capital changes adjustment. So net profit before tax and extraordinary items, add adjustment for non-cash items or less adjustments for non-cash items. Then you'll have what? Adjustment for working capital changes, and then you'll get operating cash flows. Less your income tax paid, you'll get cash flows after tax. and add or less extraordinary. What is the extraordinary item? Something which is not a normal business operation. A major earthquake happened and you lost some items and the compensation was given by the government to you, 5 lakh rupees or 50 lakh rupees, or you won a major suit in a court and you got some 25 lakhs. These are not extraordinary items, not ordinary activity. So any positive cash flow or negative cash flow regarding an extraordinary activity has to be adjusted for finally to arrive at what? Cash flow from operating activities. Now, in actual academic, when you prepare a cash flow statement, you need to prepare a lot of working notes and accounts as a working note to determine certain figures. For example, you may not know exactly what is the depreciation for the year. Then you may have to open the asset account and determine the depreciation for the year. Sometimes they may give you directly, sometimes they may not give you directly. Sometimes you may have to determine the profit or loss made on sale of an asset. All that you may have to calculate as a working note for academic purposes, and then only you'll be able to complete this cash flow with relation to operating activities. Now coming to investing and financing activities, particularly when I talk of investing activities, it's fairly easy. Compare the opening and closing figures of investment components. That is, investment as I said, balance sheet item, other than current asset items. Fixed assets and long-term investments. Fixed assets, what is the change? Opening fixed assets, machinery was 1 lakh, closing is 2 lakh. So that means you have to find out whether you bought it. But sometimes you have to prepare an account to determine any further assets were purchased or sold. It could, because the net figure is 1 lakh difference. So you have to understand how this net difference of 1 lakh has arisen. So you may have to prepare an account called a plant and machinery account or building account or furniture account to determine purchase of asset or sale of asset. And while determining the purchase of asset or sale of asset, if not directly available, you may also determine the profit or loss on purchase or sale. Clear? So this is what is all about indirect method of preparation of operating cash flows. Any doubt in this? Now, the important step here before I could move forward to other activities, that the operating cash flows, I said the starting point is net profit before tax and extraordinary items. The net profit before tax figure itself may not be readily available for academic purposes. You may have to calculate that. So how to calculate that is, they may give you net profit after tax and everything in the balance sheet. The balance sheet figure, what is finally appearing is net profit after tax and everything. Now you have to work back. So what does it mean? Sometimes you may have to arrive at the net profit before tax and extraordinary items by working out a simple note by way of transfer to general reserve. So you have to understand the difference between opening and closing. I'll tell you an easy approach. The opening P&L balance as per balance sheet, closing P&L balance as per balance sheet. The difference between the two, you have to put that as profit for the year. To that, add transfer to general reserve, add transfer to various dividend, etc., proposed dividend. Then you'll get what is net profit for the year before taxes. You'll have to arrive at the figure of net profit for the year before taxes. Then only you have to come to the adjustments of non-cash items, add or less, then working capital changes, then finally tax paid, and then finally add or less extraordinary items. You will finally get a figure called cash flow from operating activities. Are you able to understand or not? Please let me know if you got any doubt at this stage.
Yes, sir.
All of you clear? Very good. So none of you got any doubt at this stage? All of you? Yeah.
Sir, can we have directly we can put the retained earnings and add dividends, we can proceed like that, sir, in case of profit is not given in the question.
Yeah, see, the point is, if profit is not given in the question, then as you said, you have to work out other options of working back to arrive at net profit before tax. If they are not given the opening P&L profit or closing P&L profit, and retained earnings is what? Your profit of from whatever profit you made during the year, out of that you have reserved something. It's like transfer to reserve only. So retained earnings is a component of that. Then as I said, anything which you have transferred to general reserve, anything transferred to proposed dividend, all that has to be added back to arrive at the profit before tax. See this, let me explain this to you, very important, dear students. If you look at the P&L, you have the items on the debit side or credit side, what we call normally, but for schedule 3 requirements, expenses, items of expenses and item of income. If you look at items of expenses, you have operating expenses and all that, salaries, wages and all that. Then in income, you have non-operating income and all that. So non-operating income and all debited to P&L only, that and all has to be added back as an adjustment. Now, after doing that depreciation, adding all the items of non-profit items, then finally, you will get net profit before tax. That is something, we used to prepare something called below the line, above the line. There used to be something called P&L appropriation account for companies. We used to have something called P&L appropriation account. If the P&L appropriation concept கிடையாது, எல்லாமே P&L வந்துருது, ஸ்டேட்மெண்ட்லயே வந்துருது. So the net profit before tax ங்கிறது உங்களுக்கு ஒரு important step நான் சொல்லி தரேன். It is like something like we assume profit before tax arrive பண்றோம் இல்லையா, there is something called above the line சொல்லுவோம். அதுக்கப்புறம் வர appropriations இருக்கு இல்லையா, transfer to general reserve, transfer to dividend, இதெல்லாம் called below the line. இந்த below the line items என்னெல்லாம் நீங்க transfer பண்ணிருக்கோ அதெல்லாம் add back பண்ணிட்டே வந்தா you will get that above the line figure. Let me show you that for easy understanding. Okay, so you are going to get something called P&L, statement of P&L, etc. In that you're going to have sales or revenue from operations, blah 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 blah. Then you will get something called net profit before tax. This is something that may be directly available, or sometimes it may not be directly available. The net profit before tax less various taxes, etc. அதுக்கு முன்னாடி இது appropriations ஏதாவது இருந்ததுன்னா, so they may give you this figure. From here you have to work out this figure. So that means what? You have to add back. Let me repeat it. This net profit before tax figure may not be readily available for cash flow purposes. So they may give you net profit after tax, and after all appropriations. So what you have to do is this figure, you have to add back whatever appropriations to get net profit before tax for the year. Sometimes they may give you opening P&L and closing P&L. So opening P&L is 1 lakh, closing P&L is 2 lakhs. So net profit for the year 1 lakh. To this add transfer to general reserve during the year 50,000. Add proposed dividend during the year, for example 50,000, and whatever. So you may get 3 lakhs. This is the figure of net profit before tax. So you have to get this figure right. Very, very important. When you do under indirect method, an important calculation involved is determination of net profit before tax. Once you get this right, then net profit before tax and extraordinary items. Then to this add adjustments of non-cash items debited to P&L, less non-cash items credited to P&L, whatever. And non-cash and non-operating, very important. Non-cash, the interest dividend non-operating. Add non-cash and non-operating items debited to P&L, less non-cash and non-operating items credited to P&L. Then you will get finally net profit before tax and extraordinary items. Adjustments, add less panita, you will get a figure. To this figure, adjustment for working capital items, then you will get a figure. And to this figure, add or less extraordinary tax paid, less tax paid will be always less. Okay, tax paid, income tax paid, you get a figure. Then you'll get a figure. To this add or less extraordinary items, and finally you'll get operating cash flows. Are you able to understand or not? All of you are clear about this?
Yes, sir.
Very, very important, because see, to be honest with you, I am sure all of you are reasonably thorough with this topic, on cash flow. But what a challenge you will have to handle is that it's time consuming. That is one thing I want to tell you. It's time consuming in the sense that everything involves some calculations. Every single number, whatever we are putting here, involves some calculations. So no figure may be directly available to you. Net profit before tax, they will not give you directly. They will not give you the depreciation figure. They will not so you have to calculate many things, and that is what will consume your time. So you have to manage your time well in this topic. Cash flow statements வந்து எனக்கு தெரிஞ்சு ஃபுல்லா ரைட்டா போட்டீங்க அப்படின்னா நீங்க அக்கவுண்ட்ஸ்ல ஓரளவுக்கு பிஸ்தான் இருக்கும். ஒரு full fledged cash flow statement ப்ராப்ளத்தை நீங்க பக்காவா போட்டு ஃபுல்லா டை அப் பண்ணிட்டீங்கன்னா ஓப்பனிங் கேஷையும் க்ளோசிங் கேஷையும் யூ கேன் காலர் அப் அண்ட் சே ஐ எம் குட் இன் அக்கௌண்டிங் ஆல்சோ. பிகாஸ் அக்கௌண்டிங்ல நம்ம எவ்வளவு ஸ்ட்ராங்கா இருக்கோமோ அவ்வளவு நம்ம கேஷ் ஃப்ளோ ப்ராப்பரா போட முடியும். ஏன்னா எங்க மிஸ்டேக் ஆகும்னா இந்த அக்கௌண்டிங் இஷ்யூஸ், டெப்ரிசியேஷன் கால்குலேஷன் இஷ்யூஸ், அந்த மாதிரி இஷ்யூஸ்ல போய் நம்ம என்னமோ 1 or 2 கால்குலேஷன்ஸ் மிஸ் பண்ணோம்னா நம்ம ஆன்சர் மாறி போயிடும். ப்ராஃபிட் ஆர் லாஸ் ஆன் சேல் ஆஃப் அசெட் டிட்டர்மின் பண்றது தப்பாயிருது, இல்ல டெப்ரிசியேஷன் டிட்டர்மினேஷன் தப்பாயிருது. இந்த மாதிரி கேசஸ்ல என்ன ஆகும், யூ மே லூஸ் யுவர் மார்க். ஸோ நம்ம அக்கௌண்ட்ஸ்ல தரவா இருந்தோம்னா இது கரெக்டா போட்டலாம். ஸோ பிட் ஆஃப் அ ப்ராக்டிஸ் would enable you to build up some speed and accuracy on preparation of cash flow statements. Okay, so this is all about preparation of cash flow statement. டைரக்ட் மெத்தட், இன்டைரக்ட் மெத்தட். நான் இன்டைரக்ட் மெத்தட் எக்ஸ்பிளைன் பண்ணேன். இப்போ டைரக்ட் மெத்தடை பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் எப்படி பண்ணோம்னா வெரி வெரி சிம்பிள். receipts from debtors, receipts from cash sales, etc. whatever inflows. இப்போ ஒரு அக்கௌண்டிங் என்ட்ரி நான் எதுக்கு அந்த பாயிண்ட் சொன்னேன்னா, ஒரு டிரான்சாக்ஷன் எடுத்துட்டா அந்த டிரான்சாக்ஷன்ல ஆப்ரேட்டிங் கேஷ் ஃப்ளோஸ் பத்தி நான் பேசிட்டு இருக்கும்போது, if you have any inflow or outflow, debit cash or bank or credit cash or bank, then it automatically comes into operating activities. So sale, cash sales is what? Accounting entry, very simple. Cash to or bank to sales. So it involves some debit inflow. So அப்போ receipts வந்துடும். Receipts from cash sales, receipts from debtors, payment to creditors, purchases, cash purchases, payment to suppliers for goods and services, payment to employees for salaries and benefits, cash payments for insurance for assets of the business, cash payments for any other expenses relating to operating activities of the business. Everything will be coming under operating activity. Okay, so your sales revenue, cash collections, debtors collections, these are all inflows. And if there is any other inflow from operating activity, less all operating activity related outflows like payment of salary, wages, admin expenses, all that marketing expenses, எல்லாத்தையும் நம்ம லெஸ் பண்ணிட்டே வந்தோம்னா finally get cash flow from operating activities. That is direct method. இங்க direct methodல என்ன ஒரு சேலஞ்ச் அப்படின்னா, again they may not directly give you what is collection from debtors, they may not directly give you what is cash sales. Sometimes you may have to determine that. So that is in the form of a working note. You have to determine what is your cash collection from debtors, what is your cash payment to creditors, what are your operating expenses. That has to be determined. So that is a challenge in direct method. So once you're thorough with these two distinct approaches, but the final interesting part is because of the accounting principles, you'll get the cash flow from operating activities the same figure. So that itself is a proof that you're thorough in your accounting. Either way you do that, you get the same answer of operating cash flows. Are you clear or not?
Clear, sir.
Very good. All of you are clear? Very good. Excellent. So coming to investing activities, the second major activity, again you have to separately disclose. What are the investments? I said for easy understanding, investment activities are those which are primarily relating to balance sheet items covering your fixed assets and investments, that is other than current assets. Very simple. So purchase of fixed assets, sale of fixed assets, making investments. Investments, you know, you can make in different shares, debentures. You can invest in property, property, land and building. Investment property is those or investments which are not intended for resale, or rather it is intended for not for immediate resale but for a long term, and later you can decide to sell it off. Not required for your business purposes. You don't want to use that land or building for your own business. That is what we call investment property. So this we discussed where, you remember, investment property ninga paathom nyabagam irukka ungalku? And the topic we saw this investment property. Any idea? No idea? You are able to recollect? Where did we discuss this concept of investment property? Long silence. Maradha,
Sir.
Exactly. Investment
accounts.
Good. Investment accounts. That's right answer. Investment accounts la nama the investment property or classification parthom. Correct? So the investment property is basically intended for investment purposes for a long term, and later they may sell it or do whatever, but the intention is not to use it for business. Land or building is not to be for putting up a factory, etc. That is not an investment. That's fixed assets. இப்போ லேண்ட் ஆர் பில்டிங் நீங்க உங்க ஓன் பிசினஸ் யூஸ் பண்றது ஃபிக்ஸ்ட் அசெட்ஸ்ல வந்துடும். பட் நீங்க இன்வெஸ்ட் பண்ணி நீங்க லேட்டரா டிஸ்போஸ் பண்ணணும்னு நினைக்கிறது வந்து இன்வெஸ்ட்மெண்ட் ப்ராப்பர்ட்டி. So the investment activity, balance sheet, if you take it, you have fixed assets, you have investments, long-term investments, which are intended, the intention is to invest the surplus what you've got. Then the inflows or outflows will be determined for those items. You may even sell a land or building during the year. So it's a positive cash flow inflow. You may purchase a new land or building. It's an outflow. Investments can be bought and sold. Purchase of investment is an outflow. Sale of investment is an inflow. All that has to be factored in while calculating investing activities. Cash receipts from sale of property, plant, machinery, building, equipments, anything of that nature. Okay. These are all going to be classified under investment activities. You can even have cash payments to acquire investments in different companies in the form of shares. So I may go and invest in companies like joint venture investments. I can invest in shares or debentures or other instruments in that company. And sale of investments, whatever I sell my equity shares, I sell my debentures, which are all invested, all are inflows. So anything which is in the nature of outflows and inflows have to be properly classified. Now, before I miss this point, you need to understand that interest income per se on investment is an investment activity. But interest income, if you are going to operate a banking operation, for example, you are a banker, you are operating, you are running a bank. So interest income from banking operation comes under operating activities. So the nature of the business activity of an enterprise will determine the classification. So interest on something like loan given by a bank is operating activity. But a company which is a manufacturing company, any loan borrowed, interest paid is a financing activity, outflow. Any shares invested and dividend received out of it is investment activity. So an investment company, avangaloda job investing, buying and selling. Appo adala operating activities. So the nature of the business enterprise will determine how to classify your activity, whether into operating or investing or financing. Keep that in mind, because the nature of activity is what is more relevant in determination, rather than closely saying that no, interest na investment na applicable. Generally, for any manufacturing, etc., that is okay. But for a finance company or a banking company, etc., the core operation itself is lending and borrowing, etc. So you have to be very careful there. Coming to financing activities, as I said, anything which is relating to balance sheet item like equity and debt, which is your issue of shares, issue of preference shares, equity shares, issue of debentures, all that comes under financing activity, inflows. Similarly, you may repay your buyback options, maybe there in equity shares, redemption of preference shares, buyback of equity shares, all that comes under outflow. So the net inflows and outflows, if you really arrive at it, you'll get net financing activity. What is your net cash flows? So you have to report this in your cash flow by properly bifurcating these three activities, and you need to prepare the statement called cash flow statement as per your requirement of AS3. Now there are something called future contracts, forward contracts, option contracts, etc., which may be entered into by a company. Now what is a future and an option? A future is entering into a contract. Let us take an example. You are entering into a contract with a banker where you made some exports to a foreign country, and you are supposed to receive it in US dollar terms, which will get converted into rupee and remitted into India. So you got an export today. Let us say we are in August. In August, we are supplying exports, $1 lakh equivalent, because my dollar is 74 rupees per dollar. $1 is 74 rupees. So I am exporting 74 lakh worth of goods to a foreign country. So that is equivalent to $1 lakh. Clear? It could be goods or services. Infosys is a company which is offering services to foreign countries. So their billing or the requirement of a contract is $1 lakh equivalent, which is 74 lakhs in today's value terms. But they are going to receive this money after completion of service or exports after 3 months. After 3 months, you don't even know what is going to be the dollar rupee conversion rate. It could be either $1 can be 75 rupees or $1 can be 73 rupees. Now there is a risk of, while if it is going to increase to 75, you have an advantage because you're going to get 75 lakh equivalent rupees. But the reverse can happen also. If it's going to drop to 73, then you'll receive only 73 lakh rupees. But instead of getting into too much of fluctuation, you would try to enter into contract with the bank by hedging your risk by entering into this future contract, fixing a price. Okay, my future receivable of $1 lakh at 74.10 or 74.1 or 73.9, depending on the price movement, you have to fix it. The banker also understands how the price is expected to move, positive, negative movement. So you enter into contract with the banker at a particular rate. That is what we call future contracts and all that. Any outflows or inflows arising out of that, typically on a contract also can come into play with respect to the investing or financing act. That's more into if it's related to investments, it goes. So cash payments for future contracts, investment related, forward contracts, option contracts, etc., will also be brought out in this investing activity, and same thing will be applicable for receipts as well as payments. So this is how you actually classify your activities for the purposes of cash flow preparation. And every cash flow, as I said, you properly disclose items of foreign currency cash flows. In fact, in one of the exams, they asked a question. Cash flows arising from transactions in a foreign currency shall be recorded in an entity's local currency by applying the currency conversion rate on the date of cash flow. The cash flow of a foreign subsidiary shall be translated at exchange rates between the functional currency and the foreign currency. I have a subsidiary in a foreign country. The cash flow relating to foreign subsidiary, I need, if any, should be converted at applicable conversion rates. So cash flow, which is in a foreign currency, you do one of the exam question. How would you convert the cash flows in a foreign currency, or reported in a manner which is being consistent with effects of changes in foreign exchange rates, etc. And I also told you about special treatment of interest and dividend of a banking or finance companies with respect to comparison to a non-banking or non-finance companies. And income tax has to be disclosed separately. Investment in subsidiaries, associates, and joint ventures should be shown separately, and all that. Non-cash transactions should be disclosed separately, and various aspects of other disclosures which are required under AS3 has to be disclosed as a part of the cash flow statement. This is what is all about AS3. Any doubt? Because this AS3 is the basis for preparation of cash flow statement. Without knowing AS3, you cannot prepare a cash flow statement, correct? So that's something very, very important. So any doubt at this stage? All of you clear? Any doubts?
No,
sir. Okay. Now, I'm going to ask you a simple question based on the discussions we had now. The term cash includes A, cash and bank balance, B, all current assets, C, all current liabilities, D, none of the above. Let me repeat the question. The term cash includes A, cash and bank balance, B, all current assets, C, all current liabilities, D, none of the above.
Option A, sir.
yes, sir. Cash and bank balance.
Okay. Very good. So that's the right answer. The answer is option A, cash and bank balance. Okay. As per AS3, cash includes A, cash in hand and demand deposit with banks, B, term deposit with banks, C, short-term highly liquid investments readily convertible into cash, which are subject to insignificant risk of changes in value, D, both A and B. I'll repeat. A, cash, as per AS3, cash includes A, cash in hand and demand deposit with banks, B, term deposits with bank, C, short-term highly liquid investments readily convertible into cash, which are subject to insignificant change in value, and D, both A and B.
So cash in hand and demand deposits with bank.
So all of you are answering it as option A, or is there any other answer?
Sir, D, I think so, sir.
Sir.
D, term deposits.
D. D, sir. D. Both A and B.
Both A. So is it option A or D, which is correct? So some of you say it's A, some of you are saying it's D, which is so majority in A or D. Majority is what, A or D? Okay, so the answer is A, because just now we discussed what is cash. The question is about what is cash. Cash equivalent அப்படினு அவங்க கேட்கல. So cashல என்னன்னு கேட்டிருக்காங்க. Cash comprises cash on hand and demand deposits. ரெண்டு மட்டும் தான் வரும். So other answer option A, cash in hand and demand deposits at bank. So option A is the answer. Okay, good. Which of the following is not a cash outflow for an entity? Which of the following is not a cash outflow for an entity? This is just to brush up ourselves so that we get the basics right. And so, which of the following is not a cash outflow? Depreciation, A, B, dividend, C, interest payment, D, tax. Which of the following is not a cash outflow for the firm? A, depreciation, B, dividend, C, interest payment, D, taxes.
Depreciation, sir.
Depreciation, sir.
Exactly. Depreciation is the answer. Good. A is the answer. Depreciation is a non-cash item. A is the answer. Fantastic. Very good. Which of the following will result in increase in cash balance of the business? Which of the following will result in increase in cash balance of the business? A, loan repayment to banks. B, debtors, receipts from debtors. C, bank granting an overdraft facility. D, sale of stock on credit. Let me repeat. Which of the following will result in increase in cash balance of a business? A, loan repayment to banks. B, debtors paying the amount or receipts from debtors. C, bank granting an overdraft facility. D, sale of stock on credit. Which is going to result in
loan repayment to banks.
Which of the following will increase the cash balance of the bank?
Receipts from debtors.
Huh?
Receipts from debtors.
Yeah, so the answer is B. Receipts from debtors is what is going to increase your cash and bank balance. So as I said, no, the entry is bank account debtor to debtor. So whenever you're going to debit bank or cash, it's going to increase your cash and bank balance. Okay. So there are just few simple things I thought I'll discuss with you. The principal revenue generating activities of an entity is referred to as dash. The principal revenue earning activities of a business entity is referred to as dash. What classification of activity? What activity is?
Operating.
Operating.
Operating. Very good. Operating. That's right. I'm going to give you a simple question, note it down. Net profit before working capital changes, make a note. Net profit before working capital changes. Simple question for practice purposes on whatever we have discussed now. Net profit before working capital changes of a company is rupees 3,52,000. Is rupees 3,52,000. And during the year, the following were the changes in working capital. During the year, the following were the changes in working capital items. During the year, the following were the changes in the working capital items. Decrease in stock, 2,68,800. Decrease in stock, 2,68,800. Decrease in creditors, 9,600. Decrease in creditors, 9,600. Increase in debtors, 28,800. Increase in debtors, 28,800. Increase in advances. Increase in advances, 1,920. 1,920. Increase in outstanding expenses, 38,400. 38,400. So can you tell me the answer? Calculate and tell me. What is?
Sir, last one can we?
Last one, increase in outstanding expenses, 38,400. Determine cash flow from operating activities.
Sir, net profit before working capital changes, sir.
3,52,000, 352. So calculate cash flow from operating activities. So we just now discussed that, how to adjust for working capital changes. So kindly calculate it then. So I want each one of you to calculate and let me know the answer for this, for practice purposes, because this is how you actually strengthen yourself on this topic.
Sir,
Hmm.
sir, 6,22,720.
No.
Sir, 6,18,880, sir.
Very 6,18,880. Okay, very see.
Sir, 6,18,880, sir.
6,18,880. Okay. So any other answers, or everybody is getting the same answer? So how did you treat this increase in advance? Advance, did you treat as a liability or as a current asset? Current liability or a current asset? I think that's where
Current
Assets,
asset.
sir.
current assets. Okay. So that could be an issue because, for example, normally advances are something which is in the nature of a current asset only, unless you receive something in advance. So general, in a question like this, you have to assume that advances are your assets. So current assets in a treat panna, I think your answer is right. 6,18,880. Good. So there could be a possible confusion on the term advance. So kindly get it clarified. Normally the term used advance means it's an asset, current asset, unless specifically mentioned that you have received some receipt in advance or something like that, which is a current liability. Something you receive in advance is a current liability, but generally advances means current assets. So you should get 6,18,880. So working capital changes, Munadi, or a profit 3,52,000. Decrease in stock in inflow, outflow.
Flow, sir.
Outflow, sir.
Inflow. Decrease in creditors. Inflow, outflow.
Outflow, sir.
Outflow.
Outflow.
Increase in debt. Increase in debtors.
Outflow.
Outflow.
Outflow. Increase in advances, current assets.
Outflow.
Outflow. Increase in outstanding expense, current liability.
Inflow.
Inflow, sir.
Very good. So 3,52,000 plus inflows, add outflows, you get 6,18,880 as the answer. Very good. All of you clear? Yeah. Now I would recommend you to work out short questions like this so that you can get it accurate. And this is an easy approach for this topic on cash flow in particular, because a cash flow statement you have to prepare in a whole form. But before getting into that, before full-fledged forms problems, you do that. No, I would recommend you to work out such short questions. So to ensure yourself you are thorough with the workings, because the major problem I find with students is that many times they make some errors somewhere or other because of lack of accuracy. Somewhere or other they make some mistakes. So in the pockets மாதிரி இருக்கு இல்லையா செலக்டிவா, அதெல்லாம் நீங்க நல்லா பிராக்டிஸ் பண்ணி போட்டா மெயினா எக்ஸாம்ல full fledged problem அப்புறமா நீங்க anyhow you're going to full fledged problem. When you go to the main exams with the full fledged problem, you can do it with accuracy. You can avoid mistakes. So the best way to master this topic on cash flow statements is to work out short problems, then go to a full fledged large problem. You'll never make a mistake. All of you clear? You can operating activities cash flows மட்டும் தனியா போடுறது, இன்வெஸ்டிங் தனியா கால்குலேட் பண்றது, ஃபினான்சிங் தனியா கால்குலேட், இந்த மாதிரி தனித்தனியா போட்டு பார்த்துட்டு சில சமயம் நெட் ப்ராஃபிட் பிஃபோர் டாக்ஸ் மட்டும் எப்படி கண்டுபிடிக்கிறது அதை மட்டும். ஸோ இந்த மாதிரி இட்ஸ் லைக் நோ ஸ்மால் பாக்கெட்ஸ் அண்ட் தென் யூ ஜாயின் டுகெதர் யூ கெட் ஃபுல் ஃபிளெஷ்ட் ஆன்சர். That's the important approach for this topic and that will be good for you. Okay, clear? Okay. A Limited, I'm just answered this question. A Limited paid income tax on capital gains of 2,16,300 resulting from disposal of a fixed asset. It should be shown as what? A Limited paid income tax on capital gains of 2,16,300 resulting from disposal of fixed assets. It should be shown under A, operating activity, B, investing activity, C, financing activity, and D, by way of adjustment to cash and cash equivalent at the end. What is your answer?
Operating activity, sir.
Operating.
Sir? A
Sir,
Limited paid income tax on capital gains for 2,16,300 resulting in disposal of from fixed asset disposal. It should be shown under A, operating activities, B, investing activities, C, financing activity, D, by way of adjustment to cash and cash equivalent at the end.
Sir, investing activity.
Investing. So, what is the majority, investing or operating? So, Babita, is it investing or financing or operating? Sorry? புரியல. Not able to hear you. Operating or investing or financing? Okay, some issue. Investing. Padmapriya, you said investing. Vignesh, operating up or investing up? Financing up?
Sir, operating, sir.
Okay. Investing or financing or operating? Uttara, you are able to hear me? Some problem with your speaker? Hello? You are able to hear me? Put it in the chat. Put it in the chat. What, operating or financing or investing? Probably you're not able to hear me. Some issue with your phone. Okay, don't worry. Ananya?
Operating, sir.
Operating. Srilata?
Sir, operating.
Huh?
Operating, sir.
Operating, okay. Aarti, operating or investing or financing?
Operating, sir.
Operating. Deepshika?
Operating, sir.
Okay. So, if you look at the question carefully, it says on disposal of fixed assets, there is a tax payable. So, it's an investment activity. It is a tax arising. See, that's a beautiful point actually. Why you got confused, I'll tell you. You all got confused because you thought it's net profit, net operating profit before taxes and after taxes. So, tax paid means it's always operating. That is for operating profits, whatever you get. But capital gain tax is a tax on investment. So, that has to come under investing activity. You are selling the fixed assets. If on the investment activity, capital gains income tax topic, whenever you sell your fixed assets, gain, if any, you have to pay tax on that. So it's more of a investment activity related tax. So it should be clubbed under or brought out under investing activity. Now, இதோட importance. So MCQ pattern of questions பாருங்க, short questions work out பண்ணுங்க, get it, iron out all your small doubts you may have in mind. Exam hall போகும்போது தான் இந்த டவுட் வரும். இது என்ன ஆகும்னா இந்த ஒரு பர்టిక్యులர் பாயிண்ட் ஒரு பாயிண்டா கொடுத்திருப்பான். அப்ப நம்ம போய் ஆபரேட்டிங் ஆக்டிவிட்டி கிளாஸிஃபை பண்ணுவோம் அது. அப்புறம் ஆன்சர் எல்லாமே மாறி போயிடும். ஸோ இந்த மாதிரி நீங்க அப்ரோச் பண்ணா உங்களுக்கு டவுட்ஸ் எல்லாமே கிளாரிஃபை ஆயிடும். ஸோ ஸ்மால் ஒர்க்கிங்ஸ் கேஷ் ஃப்ளோ ஸ்டேட்மெண்ட்ஸ்ல ரொம்ப முக்கியம். பர்டிகுலர்லி இந்த எம்சிக்யூஸ் எல்லாம் இருக்கிற பாஸ் கொஸ்டின் பேப்பர்ஸ் எல்லாத்தையும் சால்வ் பண்ணுங்க, ஷார்ட் கொஸ்டின் சால்வ் பண்ணுங்க, தென் கோ டு பிக் ஃபுல் ஃபிளெஜ் கொஸ்டின், யூ வில் பி ஏபிள் டு சால்வ். I will be definitely having one more session on this with working out problems under this direct method, indirect method and all that. I'll take you through the problems on this cash flow statements in the next session. Definitely we'll have another session on this. Okay. So in the meantime, go through all the things as I said. and get back to me if you got any doubts, so that when I work out problems or show you how to work out problems, you'll be able to follow me better. Okay, so any doubts at this stage before we close the class for the day?
Sir, a small doubt. Sir, in business, they are preparing cash and bank balances in ledger account, sir. Then, what is the purpose in preparing cash flow statements in preparing financial statements, sir?
A good question, actually. See, very interesting question you asked. A cash book is something prepared by an entity, and the cash book doesn't form part of financial statement, first of all. So I am a shareholder of a company. I don't have an access to the cash book. First, correct? Second point, the cash book doesn't segregate the activities into three. It is going in chronology. The cash book transactions are like, for a company like ITC or Hindustan Lever, cash book will be like, this big. As a investor or a shareholder, how would I grasp it? So the purpose of cash flow statement itself is to summarize all the transactions into three major activities and to give it to the customer, or rather a shareholder or investor in a platter. So I know very clearly my opening cash in bank was 1 lakh, my closing is 2 lakhs, how this changes happen. So the purpose of cash flow statement is completely different from maintaining a cash book. Maintaining a cash book is just, as you said, it's like a ledger or a separate book. And so, okay, I hope you're clear.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Good. Thank you for all your patience and interaction. I really appreciate it, and thanks for joining the class today. So I will be meeting you again in the next session. I'll inform you regarding the next class. Let us see, tomorrow we'll plan to have a session also. I'll communicate that, and take care. Have a nice day. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
sir.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.